Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
With the 8th pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Collin Sexton from the University of Alabama.
Collin Sexton becomes Alabama's first-round draft pick since 2008. The first taken in the first round since Gerald Wallace in 2000. The first draft pick since 2008. The first taken in the first round since Gerald Wallace in 2001, and the highest Crimson Tide draft pick since Antonio McDyess at number 2 overall in 1995. How about that? Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. We're both back after a week of vacation alongside Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris, and we're back, and we're able to enjoy ice-cold Pepsi Zero Sugar. Max Taste Zero Sugar. It's a great combination. Tell you what, gives you a lift when you need it. Pick up some great Pepsi products the next time you're at your local grocery store. You'll be glad that you did. Well, the Cleveland Cavaliers have high expectations for the young point guard out of Alabama. But Sexton talked a lot about his past, Rodney, on draft night, specifically why he chose Alabama out of high school.
I wanted to go somewhere and make a name for myself. I wanted to go somewhere and establish a winning culture, because everybody knows about the football team. So I wanted to change the culture and make it both basketball as well as football, and just give the fans what they want back in Tuscaloosa.
He's, again, has knocked that door down and given Alabama a big lift, a huge lift, and catapulted us into the spotlight of not only a team that can make it to the NCAA tournament, but now a program that can send players to the NBA and get drafted in the first round and hopefully have long careers.
And Rodney, certainly we've seen it in football time and time again with first-round draft picks helping in recruiting. And for Alabama basketball, I think this is huge, because I don't like the one and done. I hope eventually the NBA changes the rule. I hope guys are allowed to go straight out of high school if they choose. But if they come to college, at least make a 2- or 3-year commitment. But right now it's a reality. And for Avery Johnson to be able to pitch Collin Sexton and say, hey, you can come to Alabama, you can play in the NCAA tournament, and then if you want to be, you can be a lottery pick and have it happen. And in fact, he went ahead of 2 Kentucky players. He was the first SEC player drafted. Not only is it great for Sexton, but it proves that Avery Johnson knew what he was talking about. You can get everything here at Alabama that you can get at other schools, including being a lottery pick. I think it'll be huge for the Crimson Tide going forward.
You just laid out the recruiting pitch. I mean, that's exactly, you laid everything out there, Gary. Fantastic. I mean, you know, when you look at what he could do for the program in terms of, you know, validating everything, I think it's huge.
You know, and for Sexton, he really did live up to the hype. Now, at one point in the year, and I was consistent on this, I said if this team doesn't make the NCAA tournament, it's going to be a disappointing year, and it would have been. It took his shot against Texas A&M at the buzzer in the SEC tournament to get Alabama in. Then they followed that up with a huge win over Auburn. They won a game in the tournament. They hung with Villanova, the national champion, for a half. So even though it was only 1 year, when you look back now, yes, Collin Sexton to Alabama was a huge success for him and for this program.
Put Alabama on his back there late in the season, Gary. You're exactly right. What he did to Texas A&M, huge shot there, obviously elevated the program. He had a good game against Auburn in the next game, as you mentioned. And, you know, again, great players, elevate everyone around them, and I think that he's certainly done a fantastic job. He did, but also I think it's going to help the program in the future. Yeah,
going forward, let's talk about that. There is no Collin Sexton, but there are other future NBA draft picks, potential NBA draft picks on the roster, even with Braxton Key transferring away. You've got Herb Jones, who I saw someone has projected down the road to be a lottery pick. John Petty. These guys now have experience. They're back. This program looks as though it'll have an opportunity to follow up one NCAA tournament berth with a second, and they haven't gone back-to-back in NCAA tournaments in a long time.
Well, success breeds success, and you know that. And I think with having having Sexton and the success that he had, and now you mentioned John Petty, you mentioned Herb Jones, those guys can feed off of that. And I think also with their presence here, having other guys coming in, it's like, I think it was Coach Johnson said, it's building a culture.
And another good recruiting class coming in. Tevin Mack, the transfer from Texas, eligible this year. Alabama basketball certainly trending upward. Collin Sexton deserves a huge thank you for helping the Tide get headed in the right direction. Now to football. Rodney Julio Jones is holding out, looking for a new contract with the Atlanta Falcons. But when he's on the field, he's certainly one of the best players in the National Football League. That's not just our opinion. Jones ranks number 4 on this year's NFL Top 100 list, voted on by the players in the league and put out by the NFL Network. Last year, he ranked number 3. This year, the 3 players ahead of him in order, well, they're pretty good too. Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, and Carson Wentz. Well, Deron Payne hopes to one day be on that NFL Top 100 list. This past weekend, he was back in his hometown of Birmingham. On Friday, he attended the unveiling of a new painting by renowned artist Steve Skipper. The painting is called Hands of Gold and shows Deron and his famous touchdown reception in the Sugar Bowl college football semifinal against Clemson. Then the very next day, Deron was at Legion Field for the HIP Camp, Head Impact Prevention, founded by former NFL linebacker Tim Johnson. Payne was asked about his transition to the NFL, and he said it's going better than maybe he even expected it to go.
I don't know, it was a little bit easier than what I thought it was going to be. Just got the chance of getting there and learn the playbook and just get to know the coaches and know the different players, and I think everything going smooth, and I'm just ready to get back in the action.
You know, the thing about Payne, Rodney, real quickly before we get to the break, to be that big, he is so well proportioned. Those shoulders, even with a T-shirt on.
Yeah, and
it's
nimble,
impressive,
great
isn't it?
feet, great hands. And you talk about his hands, Gary. How about the interception he made? I mean, he showed fantastic hands
he
there.
Did. And that's a beautiful painting, by the way. Hands of Gold. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama picks up its 4th 2020 commitment, a quarterback out of Jacksonville. We'll have the details. Plus, the ESPY nominations came out, and Alabama is notably absent from multiple award lists. We'll discuss what some could perceive as a snub. And also, of course, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Call 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or email us at the address on your screen. Or you can tweet at us. Use that hashtag TITV so Brandon will see it. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV will return after this timeout. New sport athlete out of Jacksonville, Florida, Carson Beck, announced his commitment to the Crimson Tide this afternoon to play quarterback on the football team and pitcher on the baseball team. Yes, he wants to play both. He played at Providence High School in Jacksonville last season, but has transferred to Mandarin. 2020 commit. He's the 4th commitment of the 2020 recruiting class, and this is a good-looking athlete. And Alabama just keeps on rolling. Welcome back to Tider Insider TV alongside Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris, and we were on vacation last week. Brandon Cameraman did a great job filling in with Rodney on the phone. Well, it almost seemed like we had to go an entire week without a commitment, but Beck's tweet comes in, keeping the train rolling. Rodney, this is a 2020 commitment, 2 quarterbacks in the class of 2019, but clearly for him to have this type of offer this early means that Alabama likes him, and for Nick Saban to agree for him to play baseball tells you that they really like him. What have you been able to find out about him this afternoon?
Well, you know, he's obviously a tall, lanky kid, Gary. I mean, 6'4", 225, but he still looks like he could fill out more. Has a really good arm. You mentioned that he's an outstanding pitcher. He plays in the infield, can catch, can play in the outfield, can do just about everything. He's a good athlete. Florida, Boston College were also in on him. I think there's a possibility, too, Gary, when you look at him, he may be a pro baseball prospect.
Could be drafted out of high school. You're looking at his huddle video right here, but a good-looking prospect. And I tell you, the way Alabama's recruiting right now, I wouldn't be shocked to secure a 2021 commitment coming here very, very soon. Well, Bama did lose a 2018 signee last week, at least for now. Outside linebacker Jordan Davis out of Memphis will not join the Tide this fall. He will instead attend junior college over at nearby East Mississippi in Scuba. Rodney, this is a guy who you had said you thought would have a chance to play early. Obviously, Alabama hopes to get him back. They've got a great track record there with EMCC. But In the short term, how big a hit is this to the Alabama linebacking core?
Yeah, well, I think when you look at Jordan Davis, Gary, I think he's a really talented player, great pass rusher, 22 sacks this past season. The thing with him, though, he really had to get bigger. I mean, to play on this level, I think he needed to gain some weight, and certainly has the frame to do that. He's got 6'4" plus probably. Again, I don't think he was going to be a factor this year, but certainly a guy that has the tools to be really outstanding.
So it might not necessarily be a bad thing that he goes to junior college, gets experience on that level against a higher caliber of competition. They do a great job there getting guys bigger and stronger, and if he re-signs with Alabama in a year or two, it might eventually be to his benefit. It
really does. I mean, Buddy Stevens does a fantastic job there at East Mississippi. They've had a lot of success, and be interesting to see how he develops Jordan Davis, how Jordan Davis develops, because you remember they've put out a ton of players. Jaron Reed was from there. DJ Petway left here, went there and came back. Quentin Dial. So he's put out a tremendous amount of talent.
All over the country. Well, in less than a month, the best in sports will converge in Los Angeles for the annual ESPY Awards. The nominations have come out, and Alabama really, in my opinion, missing from too many list. Justin Thomas is up for Best Male Golfer, and Tua Tagovailoa's pass to Devontae Smith in the championship game is one of 16 nominees for Best Play. But Alabama not nominated for Best Team. The game against Georgia is not up for Best Game. No one is nominated for Best Performance or for Best Moment. Rodney, it's just an award show, but is this a case of Alabama fatigue?
Yeah, who knows? I really don't know. Again, you know, all those things, certainly I think that the play is one that was one of the best I've ever seen in college football, certainly, and maybe the greatest play in Alabama football history. So I think it can't get enough accolades. But, you know, as far as the game itself, I mean, Gary, when you look at the first half, it wasn't very good. I'm talking about overall as a game. The second half was incredible.
Yeah, and the way it ended made it spectacular. So, well, hopefully they'll win the award they're up for. And as for Justin Thomas, listen, I know that there are some great professional golfers, but last year, Justin Thomas had the finest year on tour. He was the FedEx Cup champion. He was the player of the year. I mean, Dustin Johnson's tremendous, Bubba Watson, others, but it would really be nice to see Justin Thomas at 25 years old win an ESPY for best golfer, and I think he's got a good chance to do it.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, so good to see Alabama in some other sports getting some recognition, and you get a good look there at JT. Well, Alabama was not snubbed on the Ping Golf All-American list. Lee Hodges and Davis Riley both made the third team. Hodges ranked 19th in the country in his senior year, and Riley was ranked 22nd as a junior. The duo helped lead the Tide to a runner-up finish at the NCAA Championships in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Freshman Wilson Furr was on that team, and the Mississippi native won the Mississippi State Amateur this past weekend, and he won it by 11 strokes. Okay, listen to me. 11 shots clear of the field. That also secures a sponsor's exemption for him in the PGA Tour event in Mississippi in Jackson coming up in October. So that'll be a great opportunity. And coming up here, one Alabama coach says this recruiting class will go down in history. We'll discuss how this one ranks against some of the other great classes under Nick Saban. And next, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the information posted there on your screen, 205-348-9882. TITV at WVUA23.com is the email address, or tweet at us. Use the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the award-winning Tighter Insider TV. Stay with us. We'll be back after this. Well, Alabama keeps rolling in the 2019 recruiting class, coming off a big event, the Champions Cookout, with some of the top prospects in the country. You're looking at some of the scenes from the weekend that were posted on social media. And on Saturday, defensive backs coach Carl Scott tweeted, "This 2019 class will go down in history. Mark my words." Well, that is saying something indeed. A lot of confidence right now at Alabama in terms of recruiting. And we'll get to some phone calls in a moment. But first, we have a tweet in line with that, Rodney. It's a very interesting tweet, and one that I am looking forward to answering from Goal Line Stan. Which Bama #1 recruiting class has been the best so far since Coach Saban arrived in 2007? Rodney, I'll start, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. If it was #1 or #2, I can't remember, but I'm going to say this was the best and the most impactful and the most meaningful. For me, it's still the 2008 class. Was that ranked 1 or 2?
You know, Gary, I think they may have been one in some of the polls.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stay with that one always because I think at that time, with what Alabama was up against, coming off a 7-6 season in Coach Saban's first year, the Shula years, all the stuff that had happened prior to that, didn't have a single player drafted in 2008. To get the players that he signed then and get them to buy in when they didn't have the track record that they have now. They weren't the it school. People weren't lining up to come to Alabama. In fact, a lot of players were looking for reasons not to go to Alabama. And to sign the Julio Jones and the Mark Ingrams, and it goes on and on and on, and lead yourself to a 12-2 record in 2008 when they were freshmen, and then an undefeated 14-0 team in 2009 and the national champion. That, for me, is still the best class.
Yeah. I mean, an argument can be made. Hey, I think 2009 was great, too.
Yes.
I mean, when you say A.J. McCarron, Trent Richardson, that class, you know, they won a couple of national championships, so it was a fantastic class. And I tell you, last year, the Alabama freshman team basically beat Georgia for the national championship. So you had 6 true freshmen on the field in the fourth quarter, playing key roles. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, but you had guys playing other spots in key positions. And you know, Gary, for freshmen to come into that game, a lot of those guys didn't have much experience. Man, what a group it was. And I've said this. I said this last year before the season. I thought Alabama's freshman class, the young talent that Alabama had, was the best I'd ever seen here. When you talk about it as a group, you look at those receivers, Smith, Judy, Ruggs, Tua, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson from right here in Tuscaloosa. I mean, you can go on. Alex Leatherwood, what a job he did. Jedrick Wills, you know, a lot of fantastic
won national
players.
championship. It may go down as the best. I mean, you can make a lot of arguments, and I probably was talking more in terms of impact.
No, I understand.
No,
exactly.
I'm with you all the way too. I'm just saying though that was such an important class because
absolutely it was important.
People forget how far Alabama had fallen in terms of national perception, and they helped get them back. All right, time to take some phone calls. First up is Stephen in Northport. Stephen, how are you, my friend?
Hey, first of all, a great replacement last week, but we missed y'all.
Thank you.
Beautiful shirts. I got 2 quick questions, and I'll get off here.
All right.
Okay, we got the Texas transfer coming in on basketball. How many scholarships do we have, and where are we with filling them? Second question, on the football team, last year's injuries and spring training injuries, where do we stand on getting them back?
Okay. First on basketball, well, they have a signing class coming in for this year, 3-man signing class, Jared Butler, Deontay Wood, and Javion Fleming. No one-and-dones like Collin Sexton, but a really solid class. Tevin Mack, you mentioned the transfer from Texas, is eligible. This recruiting class that they're putting together now for the next year, I think probably they're going to sign 4 players would be my guess. That could change based on guys leaving the program, but my guess is 4 players probably. They're involved with some really big-name players. It's a good year in state, a really good year in the state of Alabama, so I think Alabama's recruiting is going to continue to be on the uptick. As far as the football injuries, Rodney, you take that one.
Yeah, I think everything, all these guys will be back. Anthony Jennings obviously missed spring practice. I think he'll be fine. Not sure if he'll be 100% when August camp starts, but I think he'll be back. So I think all of the other guys, basically most of them had returned, Gary.
For the end of the year.
Terrell Lewis got back. I think injury-wise, Alabama should be fine.
Yeah, it should be 100% going into fall camp. All right, we're going to take a timeout. More phone calls, tweets, and emails on the way. Again, if you'd like to get through on the program, you can do so, 205-348-9882. We're rocking and rolling on a Tuesday night, on a hot June evening here in Tuscaloosa. We're back with more TITV after this. Our Green Track Bama Bingo trivia question of the week is, who holds the Alabama record for tackles in a career? The choices are, these are 4 pretty good players, Wayne Davis, Cornelius Bennett, Thomas Boyd, or Woodrow Lowe. You can answer the question on WVUA 23's Facebook page for a chance to win a Green Track Bama Bingo free play power pack. Go to WVUA 23's Facebook page to answer that question and get qualified to win. And right now, we're going to head right back to the phone lines. John is with us in Bessemer. What's up, John?
Hey, I heard y'all on vacation, buddy.
We were, buddy.
Hey, now that's the reason I called, man. How's Alabama doing in recruiting next year? And I was going to see, can Alabama pick up a player like Booker T?
Later.
All right. Is it Booker T, the wrestler he's talking about? They're doing great in recruiting for next year. We already said 4 commitments for 2020. I think 15 or 16 for 2019. Yeah, everything's looking really, really rosy in recruiting, John. Booker T, I'd have to check and see if he's got any eligibility left. I don't know. All right, let's go to Brent and talk with our pal, Rick. Hey, Rick, how are you, man?
Fine. How are y'all tonight?
Very well, Rick.
Listen, can you tell me what in the world Key's problem was and why did he leave?
Okay.
He was sitting on top of a gold mine, in my opinion.
Yeah, this time last year we were talking, had talked about him possibly going to the NBA and coming back to Alabama to be the cornerstone of the program. Had a really good freshman season, all freshman SEC first team. Last year, the injury, I think he missed, what was it, Rodney, the first 9 games or so?
A lot of games.
And with all those freshmen coming in, he just had a hard time finding his niche. And I think that he was a highly recruited player out of Oak Hill. I think he felt like maybe he got lost in the shuffle about a little bit. His role wasn't defined well enough for him. He didn't have a great year, and he just decided that he would move on. I don't get it either. Now you go sit out a year before you're eligible to play here. You're talking about going to the NBA last year. Now you're waiting at least 2 more years. But I think all in all, it's going to work out for him, and I think Alabama basketball is going to be better for it too. That's just the way I feel. That's my opinion.
I agree. I think you're right.
All right. Good call there, Rick. All right, let's get an email in, Rodney. This is from Dennis. Where are some of the past superstars now in their careers? David Palmer, Hollywood Robinson. So we get football and basketball, and great job of Brandon to pull in that video. David Robinson, or James Robinson, I should say, is living in Las Vegas. I guess maybe he's a high roller. I don't know that much more to tell you, but, he had a solid NBA career for a number of years. He's living in Las Vegas. And David Palmer, I still think lives in Birmingham. I know he's involved with Sherman Williams there. They do some great work for charity, and I think David Palmer, much like Sherman Williams, has had a really productive life the last few years helping other people, and they're involved together. So good for David Palmer and good for Hollywood Robinson, and thanks for the email. Well, still to come, and thanks for the phone calls. The American Alliance of Football keeps adding big names. Find out which former Alabama assistant coach is headed to the team in Birmingham. It's a pretty evening, even though it's hot. We're back after this. Well, a great man and a great football coach, Joe Pendry, will join the American Alliance of Football as an executive for the Birmingham team. He'll do a great job for them. Our beautiful shirts and ties, as always, provided by the Locker Room in downtown Tuscaloosa, home of the original elephant wear. Get by and see them in person or shop online, not just for elephant wear, but all their other great men's and women's wear as well. Also, last week was the 3rd Tuesday, but since Rodney and I were on vacation, we're going to Buddy's tonight. 7:15, my birthday tomorrow, Rodney.
Happy
so I
birthday.
think we'll be celebrating a little bit tonight at Buddy's. Join us, 7:15 in Northport. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Good night, everybody.